get it out to everyone so people can see it. Really appreciate your efforts in putting that together and working with those folks to at least counterbalance this. You know, one of the things that I'm going to save, you know, we've got 2 more speakers and I'm running over, but it doesn't matter. We'll get through it. But the last 2 speakers, I really want to give an opportunity to have their words spoken. Alice talked about having tools. Frank Dillman, our next speaker, has been talking about giving the people tools to balance this, you know, equation a little bit in terms of how we can at least have an opportunity to say, wait a second, these guys aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. We can affect that through the initiative, the referendum, and the recall. Frank, I know that you have been, it's sort of like all of us are sort of tilting at windmills, okay? You perhaps more than anyone, because no one has really listened to this until the Bentley problem, and then everyone said, well, why don't we just recall them and get rid of them? And oops, we don't have it. Tell us about it.
Do it in 5 minutes.
You think?
We all do, yeah.
Well, first of all, Lou, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with most of you that I've seen before, and see a couple of young faces, which is even better. I've been a student of initiative referendum for nearly a decade. I honestly believe and I can give you some examples, I honestly believe that the only way we're going to change government, as Alice has talked about, and Ann and everybody else in this room has talked about, is through engaging the people. Well, we're not being engaged at the pace we are right now. I mean, we're subjects, we're not constituents. Initiative referendum, in a nutshell, initiative is, that part of the equation is where you as a citizen would have the right to place a statute and or a constitutional amendment on the ballot. The referendum part of the equation is what I really like. That's where it gives you the right, as a citizen, to ratify or reject legislative action. Now, I've tried to change the bill for this year that Isaac Wharton is supposed to introduce, and I hope that Trip Pittman will do the same. I took it from statutes to including joint resolutions, because if we remember back in 2007, they passed themselves a 62% pay raise. We could not touch it. They knew that we were bound. So I'm hoping that if we ever get the initiative referendum bill through the legislature, we can also have that right on resolutions and would have been able to recall that pay raise that they so much enjoyed and they're still getting. We hear, many of us spoke about the problems in our government. I still feel this is the solution, folks. It may sound rather self-serving, but however, if we don't have this right to initiate a referendum, where's our recall? You all been fighting, and I say you because I've not been in a fight for Common Core. I've been fighting this issue, but you all have been fighting Common Core for 7 years. And I'll give you an example of what went on in Maine a couple of years ago. Maine has initiated a referendum. One of the ladies on the school board got tired of how their state school board was voting. She actually formed an effort to recall the Common Core in the state of Maine. This was from somebody within that could see what you are seeing. And there was another group too that did the same thing. So they joined forces, but they failed because of the signature threshold. That's the biggest problem that we have. Some of the states with a very low threshold, it's more popular among the people that are able to use. Let's face it, the legislature, the 140 individuals we have in the State House right now are not a cross-section of the state. We are. They're not a cross-section of the state. And so therefore, they're sitting up there making decisions and rules that impact us, that they don't even know how for sure it would affect us. Let me give you one statistic that's really surprising. People will tell you that Common Core does take over the government. Yes, it does. But initiative referendum will hurt government. In 1999 to 2000, there were 10,000 new laws throughout the nation that was put into effect. 10,000 new laws. There were 35 initiatives. 35. So don't tell me that we're going to overtake any government. We want to see, like I said, term limits, recall, Common Core, fair ballot access for the independent parties. How about government reform? we're talking about ethics reform. I've been with the Ethics Commission, and I will keep it clean because I'm in mixed company, but they're about useless. So that organization needs to be done. And I also, Alice and I have talked, I would like to see the people give the Attorney General's office, certainly under her helm, more power. Because I live in Macon County. I could give you another 20 minutes what I'm fighting on in Macon County. So I need help, and the Attorney General's office that we currently have here is not interested. Give you a couple of historical facts. Most recently, St. Petersburg, Florida. You may have heard this before from me. St. Petersburg, Florida, just a couple of years ago, they went out and contracted, the city leaders said, well, we know better than everybody else, and the citizens were screaming up and down, we don't like the design. Well, they went out and voted, they approved it. They let the bond go, and the citizens said, we don't like that design. Well, they got it to the ballot, because they have initiated a referendum. 65% of the people said no. Hey, guess what? The pier is being built to the citizens' liking. And in 1912, women gained the right to vote in Arizona because of you folks, not the legislature. I won't go into detail and take up time and have Lou come over here and choke me off the stage. But historically, that's a fact. The poll tax was eliminated in California 2 years later, in 1914, because of you folks, not the legislators, the people. There was a strong eminent domain policy law that was written in Mississippi just a couple of years ago, where now we're actually in response to Kelo, Connecticut. So if the government wants to take your land, John, and they plan to flip it to Walmart or Winn-Dixie or whomever, now in Mississippi, they have to hold on to that land for 10 years before they can give it away. So this came from the people. We don't have that here in Alabama. We don't have that input into our law here in Alabama. We're also taking a look at this $80 million, is it, for the jail system? Well, there was actually it's a county in Oregon. See, INR isn't just isolated to the state. I'm just looking for it at the state level. Then maybe we can get down to the local municipalities and counties. But there was a county out in Oregon that wanted to build a 3-story new county annex. And the people said no. And they moved on, and the people voted it out. The people said, we ain't going to do it. So the same thing with this jail system. Personally, I believe there's alternate ways of reducing our population in the prisons. And so I would say that, or challenge all of you, if this went through, then why can't we have a response to that? They're certainly not going to come out and ask us our opinion. And basically this is, you all have these handouts one way, at one time or another I've given you these handouts. Take a look at the demographics on this handout. You will see that individuals, collectively it was 71% in favor of INR in 2010, polling 500 likely voters in each state. Nationally it was 67. So we're 4 points higher. And we're 4 points higher than many of the states who live by INR. 26 states have this. So we were still higher than those states. And there's only 2 demographics on here the people did not answer. Their political ideology, which they probably really did not know, and their income, which they probably didn't want to divulge. Senior citizens like myself, we're over 60% on this thing. We are the ones that generally resist change. So on that note, I do encourage you to take a look at INR. I honestly believe this is a process. I'm not looking to advocate to do away with Common Core. I'm not advocating to do away with jail system. I'm advocating to give you the process so the people can use it as their choice. So on that note, Dr. Lou, you must have left your cane at home, huh? Or did I run out of time?
You're running out of time. I was getting ready for the vote.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Frank.